Okay, I see that people are still joining, but not to make anybody else who was on time wait any more longer. Let's begin with our giant webinar. My name is Jack Glowacki, Jacek Glowacki, that's my Polish name. I'm an expert in automation, in implementing automation and automation technology in general as well for the last couple of years. Before Giant, I was working in marketing automation, also connected to this topic. But in the last few years, I am employed at Giant, and I'm responsible for implementation of our technology. So I'm working on hands, on deck, hands-on with companies to implement our technology. So I'm actually a witness to many different problems that companies have that might have in today everyday's work. So I'm pretty familiar with the processes in companies and different processes which can be good candidates for automation. So what are we gonna talk about today? First of all, we're gonna go through a little bit of general information about automation. So uh, first of all, we're gonna talk about how does it work, what companies and what industries are good candidates for automation, what departments are good departments to start automation journey, what kind of software systems we can automate, what kind of processes we can automate, and how to identify those processes. This is going to be the first part, and then I'm going to talk about also about how we identify the process, how we create the automation itself, how we work with our software, and how we implement it to that company. So there's going to be those two test sections, and at the end I will have three case studies examples for you, where I'm going to be telling you in detail with a good example on how we implemented this technology in the past. So without further ado, let's go to the first slide. How does it work? Basically, our virtual robots are software which can operate other software. So basically, this allows you to have our virtual employees, virtual robots, to operate any kind of operational system, any kind of system. So we will be basically we can automate any kind of software which is in the Windows environment, and so that means that we can automate any kind of software which is basically on most of the office computers in the world. So one more thing I would like to add, that if you have any questions, feel free to write them during the webinar in the comment section. I will answer all of your questions at the end of the webinar, so feel free to ask. We're gonna have a long Q&A session. If there's gonna be a lot of questions, then we're gonna have a long Q&A session at the very end. And also, I will try to keep this presentational part as short as possible, so I can go directly to the examples and start showing you the examples, and we can have our Q&A session as well. So thank you, Tom, for writing the comment in the comment section to remind me that I forgot to tell you this, that we will have this Q&A session. This is very important. So if you have any questions, feel free to write. We're going to address them at the end. So basically, how does it work? It works that we have a software system which can allows you to operate any kind of software which you have installed on your Windows environment. And also, we can automate any kind of website, so any kind of browsers. So any kind of systems which are based in the browser, SaaS systems, we have the ability to operate without any problems. So let's move forward. What kind of companies and what kind of industries are good for automation? First of all, companies who have a lot of data, a lot of information coming in and coming out of the company. This might mean that the company can be a big company and can also be a small company. Because, for example, if you have a real estate agency, is a great candidate for automation, because can have millions of processes in this agency, for example, checking out new offers online, which can be fully automated, which is done by employees right now. So real estate agencies are not big companies, but they are still perfect candidates for automation, because they have a lot of process and a lot of repetitive tasks that they need to be done, but they are repetitive and employees don't really like to do them. So small companies also can be a good candidate, but also big companies who have to deal with a lot of employees, with a lot of processes regarding those employees, also are great candidates for automation. For example, payroll. If you have to do payroll yourself and you have 10 employees, this is not a problem. So you don't have to automate this process. But if you have 1,000 employees in your organization, then payroll might be a good candidate to automate, because this might take you a couple of days to complete by hand, just collecting this information and putting it and making calculations. So different size of companies can be all sizes can be good candidates for automation. It just depends on the amount of data they have to process and what kind of industries are good candidates for automation. Basically, the best way is just to name a few. It's, for example, healthcare, finance, banking, travel, insurance, manufacturing, production, real estate, as I mentioned, government, and many more. So basically, almost any industry might benefit from automation, because it basically helps to streamline and make your processes faster, more efficient. So this is basically applicable to almost any industry and any company. And let's go a little bit deeper into that. Why is it applicable to almost any company? Why is automation so easy to use? Because almost in any organization we will have the same departments, and inside of these departments we will have the same types of processes. So almost any company will have an accountant, will have somebody from HR, sales department, almost all every time, marketing department, manufacturing department if it's a manufacturing company, etc., etc., or controlling department, for example, as well. So almost any department has its processes which are repetitive. For example, let's take HR and this payroll example, which is very good here, because this is not a problem when you have a small organization, but when you have 1,000 employees or even a couple of hundred employees, and you have to calculate all the sick days, all the holidays, days off, all the working hours, for every one of them, for each month. This takes actually a big part of your man hours, working hours, away from your staff, which might otherwise look for other things, better things for your organization. So this is only one example of processes inside of those departments, and I'm going to be telling you more about examples about sales later, and a couple of more. So we will have more examples at the end. I remind you that all the time you have the ability to ask questions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. And on the top of the screen, you can also see a button with a schedule a meeting. Anytime, if you don't want to ask the question here, you can schedule a direct meeting with me. So feel free also to do that at any point. And let's move on. What kind of software systems we can operate using our solution? As I said, our solution allows you to automate any kind of legacy systems which you might have already in your company. And we don't want you to change the systems which you are already using. We want to automate those systems. So for example, if you have your favorite CRM system and you are fine using it, you just want it to be automated. So for example, you want to have automated created of a contact card in the CRM every time a new lead shows up. You can have this easy done with our automation. So we can automate any kind of CRM system, any kind of ERP system, any kind of accounting system, any kind of HR system, any kind of system which is based on Windows. We are able to automate. So this is actually very easy to remember and understand, and we don't want to take those systems away from you. We just want to help you work with those systems, and I'm going to give you also a few examples at the end. And let's move on. Identification of the process. Basically, this is a very important part, and I'm going to expand on this a little later. But identifying the process is a very important thing, and most of the time, it's better also to start with a very simple process with just some simple example just to show you how this automation work. But identification of the process is a part where our sales team is involved, which they can help you. This is free of charge, and we can help you identify the process, which then can be automated. So this identification of the process, you can actually use our experience in identifying your processes inside of your company, because as I said, a lot of them are very typical, very universal, let's say, across industries and across companies. So this is also a very important one, but let's move on to the next one. So here's a couple of examples of process in different departments. For example, invoice generation in accounting, payroll, as I described before in HR, data scraping. We can use this for almost any kind of department, because it can be used, for example, in marketing. It can be used in sales as well. Lead generation, also many different ways to generate leads, but all many ways can be now found which can be absolutely automated. So if you want to generate some traffic or generate some customers to your online store, automation is definitely the best way to go, because otherwise you have to cold call or cold sending emails, which is not really effective anymore. So basically, any kind of process which is repetitive, something which you have to do over and over again, is a good candidate for being automated. Identification of the process is actually very important, and many times companies come to us with a very long and complicated process, which is very prone to be for mistakes and can be easily broken. So basically, the most effective things which we can do actually are very small. So for example, we have a situation with a construction company from Canada, where they received 20,000 invoices for materials which they bought from their suppliers. They received over 20,000 invoices per month from these suppliers, and this was very important for them to have this all paid on time. And it was almost impossible for a human to go over 20,000 invoices per month. And instead of automating this process, they came up to us, and they wanted to automate a very big sales related process, which involved I think 20 steps. And they didn't even realize that they already had a problem inside of their company, which was a desperate need to be automated. So basically, what we do is we use our experience to help you find these processes where you actually lose the efficiency in your company. So it's better to start with a process just like sorting emails or generating invoices than something super complicated. If you're starting with automation, start with the things which are most annoying and take the most of your time up. So that would be the best advice how to start. And let's move on. What we need to start working on your process is a detailed description of the process. So imagine that you have to teach our robot exactly the same as you would have to teach a brand new employee who shows up at your organization. So basically, this means that we have to know exactly what the robot has to do with the process. So every clicking of the mouse, every mouse movement should be described, every button on the screen, so we know exactly step by step what the robot has to do. But this is not as difficult as it sounds, because actually the best way to do this is to record a video, just to sit next to the employee and record a video of his movements on the screen. And based on this video, we can actually start working on the automation. It's this simple. And actually, after a few hours, when we have all the necessary information, it only takes us a couple of hours of creating the code, and another couple of hours to do the implementation in your organization. So implementing RPA is actually a very fast process, so you can have the results, the effects of the automation very fast. So this is actually a very nice thing about this. But the only thing which we need is a good description of the process and the video, and that's the only thing which we need to start. Then when we start to implement your this robot to your environment, we need to have access to the systems and to and virtual environment to set up the robot. So basically, if you open up a website where you have to log in, and the robot has to do the same, we have to get the access to the robot. It might even be a account set up just for the robot, like a robot one account, for example. So basically, this is actually a very nice thing to do, because then you can see every time when a robot is actually using this credentials to log into the system, so you can see that, and you can see how the robot operates. And we can set up the robot in many ways. We have a full range of possibilities here. We can either install the machine, install the robot on your hard drive, so we can have it set up on your physical machine, or we can have it set up on a cloud, on a virtual machine, virtual drive. Uh, it's up to you. It's up to the customer. For us, it's no different. It's only up to you how you want to have it set up. And let's move on to the next slide. Another thing which I can offer our customers, and I am offering our customers every time on every meeting, is creating a POC, proof of concept demo robot. This means that we are very confident of how easy it is to create automation using our solution, and we can create, actually, when we receive a demo from you with a description of the process, and you provide us with this information, we can create a robot for you, just to show you that everything works, that the technology actually does the job, and we can do this free of charge. That's what proof of concept means, and we are so confident that everything will work, that we are offering this basically to all of our customers, because every time we create a POC demo robot, customers are actually so impressed that we didn't have a situation where a customer would back down. Of course, it might happen. It's not a problem for us. It's a demo robot POC. It's not a problem. So if you want to check out how our technology works, feel free to contact me. You can see a button to schedule a meeting at the top of the screen. Implementation of the robot, as I said, implementation of the robot takes only a couple of hours. Once we have the code created, it's up to you where we set up the robot. It might be your computer, it might be the cloud, and implementation just means that we just put the robot in the environment where it's supposed to be working. So this is only a simple task, and actually the more important one is which the one which is coming at the end, which is basically adjustments and measurements. Because every time we create an implementation and we create a robot, we can measure exactly every parameter of its work. So we can have a detailed report generated every time a robot will process a record in our CRM, for example, a new lead, or we can have exactly the time that the robot spent on this record. We can have a detailed report about any kind of parameter of the robot work, so you can know exactly how much time you're saving using automation. So you can have a report generated in any way you want. It can be an email report, for example, but it can also be a file that shows up on your desktop. This is absolutely up to you. It's no difference for us, and for our robots is all absolutely the same. And very important thing that we do after we do the first implementation and we install the robot in your organization, after that we make adjustments, because we don't want to remove the employee. We want to implement the automation next to the employee, and we are using the employee's experience and knowledge about your company and about the systems that you're using to create the automation. And we want to have this automation work in a proper way. We don't want it to make mistakes. We want to work it we want it to work exactly the way it's supposed to work, so you can have the benefits. So we are asking, after a couple of days with this automation, after a couple of hours, we are asking your employees again, is this working for them? If do we need to change something in this automation? Do we need to make adjustments? Maybe the logic of this process isn't that good, and maybe the logic needs to be changed. So this is a very flexible process that creating a robot automation, and it's always custom. So we work every time we work with the customer, and it's always very individual kind of work. So even if we have the processes universal, which I described before, the process, the robot itself every time is custom made. It's always made up to your standards, or up to what you want it to do. So adjustments and measurements are very important in our work, and we do this after the implementation as well, so we are sure that the robot is exactly doing what it's supposed to be doing for your organization. So right now we've reached the end of this first theoretical part of the presentation, and I would like to go into a little bit of details, a little bit of examples. And all of those examples which I'm going to talk about are implementations which we did this year in different companies, different size of companies. And first of them is a manufacturing company which is producing parts for bathrooms, very high quality products, very professional manufacturer. It's actually an international company, but they have a big manufacturing center in Poland, 4,000 employees. And the problem here was in an accounting department. Employees were manually putting information into the system and generating invoices. And this process took up to 4 hours each day. To make matters worse, it had to be done after regular working hours, where all the systems were already closed. So we could not do this in the daytime, let's say, day shift. We had to do it after hours. So this obviously caused serious problems for the employees who had to do it, stay overtime, or even start working with different hours, which is also could be very inconvenient. And basically the solution was, as always, to create an automation, to create a software robot which is going to be working at a specific time, taking information from all the sources it needs, and put it all into one it put it all into one system, and do all the necessary calculations, and then generate all the invoices. So let me tell you a little bit more in detail about how we did it. Here are the steps of the process, step by step, exactly what the robot does for this company. So first, the robot opens up the system at a specific time, which is, as I said, is after regular working hours. The robot then takes the credentials which it has, so the login and the passwords, and actually logs into the system to perform calculations just like a human, just like an employee. Then then the robot searches for uninvoiced shipments. Then the robot fills in all the information, checks the dates. We can teach exactly the robot what kind of information it needs to look for, and which information to put into the system. Then the robot is generating the invoice, does actually all the calculations, clicks all the buttons that usually the employee would click. Then after the invoice is generated, the robot opens up the invoice as a separate file, just opens it up, for example, in a PDF reader, just to check if all of the information in the invoice is correct. And after that, the robot is sending the invoice to the customer. So not only is it generating the invoices, but also sending to the respective parties, so to everybody involved, everybody who we want to receive this invoice. The robot is sending this invoice to them. So this is the whole journey, exactly what an employee would be doing, but it's done by the robot, and it's done completely after working hours. So no employee has to stay late and do this process manually. So this is a big example, big advantage in terms of what was before, especially that in this huge company, a big company with a lot of customers and expanding business, it's only getting more and more of this invoice generating. So this problem would only grow. So sooner or later they will have to even hire more people, but now the robot can handle all of this process by itself. Let me go to the next case study. I see that there is no questions right now, so but feel free to ask any questions. If you want, you can also schedule a meeting. There is a button on the top of the screen, so feel free to use that. Then we can have a private meeting, and I can tell you more about let's say, problem in your company. And now let's move on to the next case study. And the next case study is actually a local city government, city hall. The problem was that one of the employees had to do every day do backup of all the databases and the systems which contain sensitive information and very important information like taxes, real estate information, debt information, regarding all the people living in the territory of the city. This information needed to be updated every day, and was very important to perform backups. And one more thing which I would like to add here is that it had to be performed by a very highly qualified IT specialist whose time and working hours were very, very expensive for the city. Instead of performing, checks on the different higher level activities, he had to go and do this uh, backups every day. A natural solution for this was to create an automation, create a robot to perform those tasks. So what we did is, what we did teach the robot to do is that first the robot opens up all dedicated systems, including logging into many systems. And there was a lot of systems, because there was one for accounting, one for real estate, and all of those things were in different places. So the employee had to do this before, and now the robot is just opening up all the systems and logging into all the systems as well. And after that, the robot performs backups of all required information. Then the robot copies the backup files to the online server. So after doing all these backups, closing the systems, the robot can even go further and just put this information to an online server. Then the robot performs a check on the dates on the server of the old backup files. And then the robot checks the trash bin on the server and deletes all backup files to make space on the server. And after also, we can set up the robot also to keep the server clean, so we don't have to store information longer than we need. So we can have the robot also to perform cleaning of this server as well. And after the robot is done with the backup, it sends a notification to the administrator reporting about the results of the action. So the robot informs every party involved also about the results of this action, which is very good, because if sometimes some records could not be processed or could not be backed up, we will have a notification about this immediately. So it's not a problem even to if we have to perform one of those ourselves, but the robot generates and sends the report every time. So let's go to the last but not least example of how we can use automation. And this time it's a sales department related automation. And it's in sales department, as I said. And this sales department had a lot of incoming traffic from different sources, different leads coming in from pop-ups, from different advertisements, from campaigns, from email campaigns, from Google ads, and from different sources. And it was very confusing to get all those potential leads, potential customers into one CRM system, and to have them distributed equally and fairly amongst the sales representatives, and also to have them distributed in a way that they will be contacted the fastest possible way, so we will not lose any hot leads, any customers who want to contact with us, and just to get our software in this case. So basically, the solution was, as always, to create a robot who's going to handle this information. And this is the description of how we did it. So basically, the robot is triggered, so it starts working when it receives information from any of the sources. So if it receives the information from a pop-up or a advertisement or an email notification, it immediately starts working and goes to that respected program, opens that program, takes all the information, and takes it doesn't matter from which source the lead came. It takes all the information about the lead and puts all this information into the CRM system. So this is number two. The robot takes all the information from the online contact form. This is, for example, the online contact form, including the name, email, phone number, etc. But we can also take any kind of information which we need. We can teach the robot to handle any kind of information that we want. So this is not a problem. Uh, after the robot opens up the CRM, puts all this information, the robot assigns the lead to a specific sales representatives and gives the lead all necessary labels. So we know exactly, after it puts all the information to the CRM, it also checks the calendars of our sales team and sees who's the most available in the time in the future, and assigns this lead to respected sales sales representatives and gives all the labels. So when a salesman takes one look in the CRM system, they will see the fully created contact card with all the information, with full description, and with all this information. The only thing that the salesman has to do is just to contact the customer. But our robots don't stop there. They can also send the email to the customer, to the potential customer, informing him that he was noticed and that he already has assigned a representative, and they will contact him at the specific time. So this is actually very efficient. It helps save time in sales department, because a lot of salespeople, sales representatives are very much complaining for how much time they have to spend filling out contact forms and contact information in the CRM systems. And I went through a few CRM systems in my life, and I know how much time it takes to open up a contact card. Sometimes it takes 30 minutes or 40 minutes to open up a contact card and put all the information there. So with this automation, we completely eliminated this waste of time, this waste of this 40 minutes for each salesman for every lead. So this is actually a very big advantage. So now we got finally through our presentation, and for all of the people attending today this webinar, we have the process analysis free of charge and mapping of the process for you, plus the implementation of the POC robot, as I mentioned before. So please contact me if you have any process which you think is a good candidate for automation. Feel free to contact me at any time. Here are my contact information for you. If you want to get my email address or scan my QR code, feel free to do that right now. I will give you a couple of more more seconds. Okay, so now I will also give you a little bit time to ask me anything. If you have some questions, feel free to give them now. Okay, I see somebody's writing, so let's just wait a couple of more minutes. You don't have to write your question here. If you have a specific question regarding your company and you want to give your information away, just uh, feel free to ask me later in a private message. Okay, we have a first question. What is the typical cost for a small implementation or like a simple process automation? As I said, uh, cost is actually a fraction of a cost which you would have to spend if you would like to implement an employee, for example, if you have to employ an employee who like have to work 24 hours per day, right? So this is actually a very much fraction of a cost of an employee's time which employees is spending. We actually calculate this by taking the amount of hours you will be saving, amount of time that we would be saving when we're implementing automation. So we are checking how much your employee's time is taken during the daytime. So for example, if your employee is an IT specialist, like with backing up of files, the amount that you're saving is huge, and the cost actually is a very small cost, and I would like you to contact me privately for a specific pricing, because it's a very individual thing, but it's a fraction of a cost of employing an employee. I would say less than 20% of implement of an employee's paycheck, and probably even less than that. It depends on where are you writing from. So I hope that answered your question. And let's see if there's any other questions. I see no questions now. I hope, Jeffrey, that answers your question. Uh, Okay, so one more time, if anybody wants to contact me, feel free to do that after this presentation. We're gonna have another webinar probably in a couple of weeks. Right now, we have a lot of very nice projects going on in the company, so I hope that I'm gonna have a few more examples for you soon of new implementations and new projects that we are right now working on. And that's it from my side. Thank you all for today for coming. And I wish you all a good day wherever you are. Have a nice day. Bye bye.